My name is Steve Jones, and I'm a pastor of worship and leadership development here at Vineyard Church. And today we're going to talk about worship for a little bit. See, my story of worship begins when I was really young. I was born into a family where both of my parents followed Jesus very closely, and they raised me and my older brother and my younger brother to follow Jesus as well. We spent a lot of our life at church, like most of the days of the week we were at church. And we would walk into this building together, and we'd walk into the sanctuary or the big meeting room. And as we walked in, there were all these rows of benches called pews that we would go and we'd find our spot and we'd sit there, and the service would start. And somebody would be playing music. And the music at this church sounded really, really different from the music that I would come to know as church music later in life. In this place, the music was an old lady playing an organ and a few people singing, and we would all get up and stand together at the same time. We'd reach into the seat back in front of us and we'd pull out these red books called hymnals. These books were filled with all of these musical notes and words that we would sing together. And especially as a young person, I really didn't understand the words that we were singing. They were words mostly about who God is and what He's like, but the language was so old that it didn't really make sense to my heart. I was starting to understand in my head some things about God, but I was never moved to a place where I felt closer to God because we were singing together. And these hymnals that were full of words weren't full of meaning for me. See, knowing God was more than just something that needed to happen in my head. It was something that needed to happen in my heart. And that's a tension for us in the area of worship. Worship is the moment where our head and our heart connect, and in that connecting place we find the presence of God. So see, in my family growing up, each of us needed to learn an instrument. We were a musical family, and so we were all taught how to play the piano. And the problem with the piano was the way that I was taught is there was a bunch of dots on a bunch of lines, and that was supposed to tell me where my fingers were supposed to go, but it was really confusing to me when I was young. And my dad had this old guitar sitting in his office, and I would sneak into his office and pick up his guitar and strum it and play it. And he figured out that that was really the instrument that I wanted to play when no one was looking. So he took me to a place full of guitars and just said, pick one out. So I take this guitar home, this black acoustic guitar, and I played it for hours and hours and hours. All throughout junior high, I learned these chords and these sounds that just seemed to matter for some reason. And then I went to school in high school and started to find all these other people that felt the same way about music. And we started to play in bands together, and they were rock and roll bands, so they sounded really different from the music that I'd grown up hearing at church. And I started to realize that there was something about music, something inherently mysterious about music. The more I started to understand music in my science classes, I realized it was just air bumping into air at different frequencies. Some of the air would bump into air in these real slow, long wave forms, and those were low sounds, and some of the air would bump into air at these really fast peaks and troughs, and those were high sounds, and they would vibrate up against membranes in my ear that were then interpreted and understood by my brain as electrical impulses. But none of that really explained to me why some songs that I would listen to would actually make my heart happy, and other songs that I would listen to were so haunting and they would make my heart sad. Why some songs made you want to dance and other songs made you want to just sit still. And I started to realize the mystery of music is that it's more than air bumping into air. It's actually this thing that happens, this spiritual thing that happens, where your head and your heart, your thoughts and your emotions move to a place where they're together, finally. And so when we come together and we sing in this place, we sing songs not just about God and who He is, but we also sing these songs to God, these relational songs about a God who's bigger than we'll ever know, but who's closer than we'll ever realize. And when we sing these songs, our head and our heart come together in this mysterious, spiritual way, and something inside of us changes. So when we're together in this place during times like this, and we have a chance to sing, not just to watch what's going on, but to sing, as the words come out of our mouth, our head and our heart connect. As we raise our hands, what we're acknowledging is that our body is a part of this process, like our physical world and our spiritual world are all one thing. And as we raise our hands up to God in worship, it's like we can feel His presence rest on us in some sort of mysterious and beautiful way. When we close our eyes as the music is going on and we let it wash over us, we find ourselves hearing the words in a different way. And then when we sing the songs that are washing over us in moments like that, it's like those songs turn into prayers from deep inside of us somewhere. So in moments like this, I just encourage you, you have a very mysterious and spiritual chance in front of you to connect your head and your heart. My friends, when we're together, let's sing. Let's raise our hands. Let's let songs wash over us, and let's make them our prayers together. Worship is the thing that happens in the space where our head and our heart meet together, and we find out that God is there waiting for us.